Welcome to One Girl in All the World, a Buffy the Vampire Slayer rewatch podcast where we recap each episode in order and discuss. I'm Ashley, Buffy super fan.
Kimmy, Buffy newbie.
You can find us on all major podcast apps, YouTube, and Instagram with new episodes on Tuesdays. Okay, so we are here.
We're here.
We're here talking about Superstar.
I mean, yeah, okay.
It is an hour of TV.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, so you did not enjoy it.
No, I thought this was, it's funny because we've had episodes before that we talked about that I didn't like, and I had very specific reasons for not liking them. Like they were inappropriate or like whatever. I may have liked this episode even less, and it wasn't like offensive or anything. Like I
you just thought it was bad.
It was a bad episode.
Right. Just bad.
Which is funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And similarly to what you're saying, I feel like I have been like, this episode is like not good. Whatever. X episode is not good. But I can take this from it and I can take that from it. Like there's this, I get that, what they were doing there and everything. But this, there's not a lot of that with this.
No. I feel like I didn't take anything away from it. I mean, maybe like one little nugget, but like.
Right. Yeah, it inched forward a few little things, but it's a palate cleanser. It's definitely a palate. This episode and the next episode are kind of like palate cleansers before we like really get close to the finale, and we came off the really intense stuff with Faith and everything. So sometimes those episodes are more effective and more enjoyable than others.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
But this was not one of them for you. It sounds like. Okay, so let's just get into it. We'll put it in the rearview mirror. All right, so the original air date for Superstar was April 4th, 2000, written by Jane Espenson. I did not know that, and that is so sad. I love her, and this is not my favorite episode by her.
No.
And directed by David Grossman, and the synopsis is, Buffy, still reeling from the discovery that Riley was intimate with Faith, must put aside her personal emotions and summon the strength to uncover why the entire town thinks that former high school nerd Jonathan is Sunnydale's newest version of a superhero.
So weird.
All right. Okay, so we I know I said I'm not doing previously ons anymore, but I think this one does call for just like reminding who Jonathan is, because he is like only been in the show a handful of times and not at all this season. So Jonathan is the nerd, air quotes, that tried to end his life in the clock tower.
Yeah.
And then Buffy stopped him, and that's when Buffy, in earshot, when Buffy could hear thoughts. He's also the one that gave her the Class Protector Award. That's at prom. That's the last time we saw him.
In the normal universe, yeah.
Yes, and then in the Buffyverse, the real Buffyverse. So he's very heavily featured in this episode, so that's a little bit reminder of him. So we started out in the graveyard where Anya, Willow, Xander, and Buffy are all patrolling, and they managed to like fight a few vampires.
Yeah, they're all fighting together.
Yeah, they're doing some good team effort here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Buffy does stake a vampire, but one kind of gets away.
Yep.
So they chase after that vampire, and they see that it's gone into like a nest, basically.
And this was creepy. Yeah.
So there's a body there, and like what was it, 5 or so vampires really are all drinking the blood at the same time. So like they have like a different limb or whatever.
Nope, and they all just kind of back out of there.
Yeah, they're like, okay, this is a little bit too much for us.
Well, that's funny because Buffy's like, well, first of all, somebody mentioned something about an orgy of death nest. Ew. But Buffy's like, I think maybe I could take them. I don't know. And I'm just like, oh, like, first of all, this was my first inkling where I was like, well, that's weird.
Right.
Because I was like, she could probably take them. Like, that's weird. Okay. Anyway, that was my first inkling.
Yeah. No, that's good that you picked up on that, because that was definitely not weird. By accident. Yes. Okay. So she says, like, I think we need help. And then they go to this like huge mansion, and they're talking to this person, like, typical like villain thing. Yeah. Big desk, big chair. It's turned around, and then it spins around, and it's Jonathan. Mm-hmm. And then we go to
this was like, and I feel like, okay, so I feel like they do a few things where they're trying to make it look like something. Like in this scene, it made me think of Charlie's Angels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, this whole like person faceless person like in the big chair and like turns around and there's a reveal. Yeah, that definitely borrowed it from a few places, I believe. So I thought the credits were actually probably one of the best parts of this episode.
They did change them.
Yeah, so they put Jonathan throughout the whole credits, like doing action shots and like, this and that. And I thought that was actually brilliant. They like actually really took the like
That's true.
They really took the idea from this episode and like took it a step further and put him throughout the credits. So I thought that was actually really clever and I liked that. So we go to Giles's, and the gang is all there, and Jonathan is there, and basically they're all making a plan to storm into this nest and take care of the vampires. But it's definitely Jonathan taking the lead here.
Yes.
Buffy is not the leader in this episode.
No. And then even like they start talking to Willow to do the Willow thing where she looks things up and she's all computer techie and she just like looks to Jonathan for help. And I'm like, what is... Oh,
yeah, so, she's looking for looking at the schematics to see if there's another entrance into the crypt. So
she's like, no, there's not.
There's not. And he says, oh, here's another way in. Okay, that's how I'll do it. So, and they all look for validation from Jonathan throughout the episode.
They do, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, you would have thought of it. And, she's like, oh. So, also, a funny little thing is all the little Jonathan kind of Easter eggs in this episode. So, some of them are very obvious, and some of them are not so obvious. The cereal that Anya is, like the cereal box that from Anya is eating the cereal, is like Jonathan's face on it.
Oh my god.
Like Jonathan's cereal.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So, and every time he makes a joke, everybody laughs. Like, oh, he's the funniest person in the world.
So weird.
Yeah, so I said, I put he's more knowledgeable kind of like than Willow, and he's more knowledgeable and like better at anything.
Well, he's the best at
everyone.
Everything.
Everything. Yep. And Giles does tell us that, though, that the weird, like, family dinner scenario that they wandered upon just seems to be that. It doesn't seem to be any, like, ritualistic meaning or something else happening. So that's good. So they go to the nest, and pretty much the gang starts fighting right away. And Jonathan comes through a skylight. Crashes through a skylight.
James Bond.
Yeah. And, so that was, like, the secondary entrance that he had found that Willow didn't see.
Obviously.
Yeah, and Buffy lets a vampire kind of get past her to exit, to get away, and Jonathan shoots it with a crossbow and kills it.
Of course.
So they take out everybody, they take out the nest, and Buffy's walking out and feels really bad that she's
beating herself up.
She's beating herself up about letting it past, and he's like, but you got two. He's really, like, reassuring her that she did her best, and she's really looking to him to make her feel better that she did a good job. And then we go outside of the crypt, and there's basically paparazzi there taking pictures of Jonathan.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, taking pictures of him.
Yeah.
And they run into Spike.
Spike's like the bad guy. He's like the enemy, the arch nemesis, the whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like we're watching a movie, basically.
Yeah, and so he basically threatens Spike that, like, once you're actually dangerous, like, not actually, once you're able to hurt people again, like, I am just going to, like, end you. And he threatens Spike. And Spike takes it seriously, I would say, because he's also under the thrall of whatever's going on. So at Tara's, this was kind of a funny scene. Willow is telling Tara all about the, like, we this happened, and then that happened, and then they hit that, and, all about the fight. And Tara says, oh, you really love, being part of the Scooby Gang and, like, doing all this stuff. She's like, yeah, I do, actually. And she asks how Buffy is doing, and she's referring to the stuff that happened with her and Riley / Buffy / Faith. And Willow says that she thinks that they're going to work. They're working on it. They're working on getting over it. And then we see the whole time they're like putting something up on the wall, and then we turn around at the end of the scene and they're making this Jonathan collage.
It's so weird. It's creepy.
Not of Jonathan, but this looks like my high school like walls of my like high school bedroom. Yeah, I had posters and everything. Like, literally from top to bottom.
I guess I just didn't do anything like that when I was a kid.
Oh, I mean, actually, when we moved, and I had to take everything, I took pictures of it to like keep it, like so I could like remember. And I don't know where I have the picture somewhere. But yeah,
I
it was
like to see these one day.
There's like Buffy posters. There's all kinds of stuff in there. But I wanted to like remember my room, so I took pictures of it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, like ceiling to floor posters of all my different interests and everything. Yeah, so they're making a Jonathan collage. So at Riley's, Riley's feeling better, and now his balls poster is changed to a Jonathan basketball poster because he's also a basketball star.
Of course he is. He's an everything star.
Yeah, and Mark Blucas, who plays Riley, was like a college like basketball star, so that's like why a basketball is like he's playing the little basketball game in there in his room and stuff. So yeah, he's this was like the whole role that he got on Buffy was like a kind of like a fluke. This was like his like first acting job, kind of.
That's funny.
So yeah, he was like he's an athlete. So it's kind of interesting. They always like kind of tie basketball in.
Did he continue to act after this?
Yeah. Yeah,
like he's still
an actor.
He's not my cup of tea, but I could see how the average person would find him very attractive.
Same. Yeah. Yeah. He's still acting. Yeah, but this was just like his kind of like first kind of dive into it was on Buffy. Yeah, he's starting to feel better from his injury from when Adam stabbed him, and but he is concerned that the initiative is still being secretive. They haven't really given them all the information on Adam, and he doesn't really know that he can trust them.
Yeah.
They say the food isn't being drugged anymore, but he's still not eating anything.
And he's not taking his vitamins?
Yeah, he's not. Yeah. He's not taking anything that they are giving him, even though they've said, okay, we're not doing that anymore, but he doesn't trust them.
Yeah.
So there's they're very like, there's a tentative kind of relationship here with Riley and the initiative. And Riley and Buffy are awkward.
Well, she's not ready to be intimate again.
Yeah, I mean, he just sits down next to her and she like jumps up. So like intimate's way down the road for that. So she doesn't even really want to be touched.
Yeah.
And yeah, he tries to like kind of touch her to show her how to like throw the basketball and stuff.
She's
and
like not having it.
She's like, actually, I gotta leave, and just runs off. So she's out of there. She's out of there. So this is the coffee shop on Maple Court, and Buffy is confiding in Jonathan.
Of course.
Her issues with Riley and the whole faith thing and how she's struggling with it.
So in all fairness, I will say that he did get good advice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He says, maybe you're actually not mad at Faith. Maybe you're mad at Riley because he couldn't tell that something was off.
And I think she knows that she shouldn't be mad at him for that, but she can't help it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Her head and her heart.
Exactly. They're not matching up.
Are disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, logically she knows that. But she doesn't feel that.
Yeah.
So yeah, he does give some good advice. He's like, yeah, so if that could be it, and so you have to, like, even if you don't think you're mad at him, maybe you have to actively forgive him so you can move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's really not about faith. Riley looked into your eyes and couldn't tell that it wasn't you. So then a fan named, a couple fans come up, but one's named Karen, and he signs a book. He signs his, like, autobiography or something that he signs for her. And then, he basically goes on to talk about how their relationship, they have to work for it.
Mm-hmm.
Her and Riley are going to have to work for their relationship. And then also we see in the background, it's very prominently featured, so it's not like a Easter egg. Like his like shoe, kind of like his like shoe endorsement like poster in the background.
Okay.
It's like huge. So in the initiative, they have a new leader, Colonel George Haviland. So he's basically stepping in while the initiative is being reviewed by the government to see what's happening. So they say, but, we still have our job to do, and Adam is the priority. So we have a consultant to come in so we can do this. And it's Jonathan.
Of course it is. Jonathan's doing literally everything. And
I feel like this whole time, I don't know if you noticed this, they kind of allude to it at the end when Riley says about feeling tall. But, like, they make Jonathan even smaller, I think, than he after Danny Strong actually is. Everybody towers over him in this episode. Especially in this scene, too. Like, this, initiative scene. He looks so small. He looks so small. Yeah, so Jonathan has been looking at Maggie's schematics for, and I guess her plans for Adam. And he has discovered that Adam's power source is uranium-235.
Mm-hmm.
So that essentially can run forever. So he won't run out of power or anything.
Well, they thought maybe they'd be able to cut his head off, but now they realize that that's useless.
Yeah, they have
to annihilate him. Those are the words
like the judge. Do you remember when they bazookaed the judge?
Yeah.
Like that's I feel like that's like what they're alluding to. Like they have to
that was a hard kill. Okay.
Boom! Like the pieces of him. Yeah. So he's come up with this information, but they said first they have to find him. Like this is all kind of useless if they don't locate him. So at Jonathan's house, his mansion, Karen is stalking him. She's looking through his window with binoculars.
What a weirdo.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is So I guess it makes sense. Somebody like that. If Jonathan was real, he would have stalkers, right?
Yes.
And then a demon attacks her.
A monster attacks her.
Yes, that's right. See, you getting better.
Oh my god.
Can't read about Buffy stuff. A monster attacks her and kind of roughs her up a little bit, but then she does get away and she runs away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So at the initiative, Riley and Jonathan talk about Buffy. So now he's on the other side of the equation giving advice. Jonathan basically says to Riley, she probably thinks that when you guys sleep together again, that you're going to be comparing her with Faith, because Faith obviously very experienced. And before Riley, Buffy had only had sex twice. So
and both times were
traumatic experiences. That never occurred to him, because he just didn't occur to him because he's not interested in Faith or whatever. He's very much into Buffy, and it would never occur to him that she would think that. But he does bring that up, which is good, because he's like, have you told her that it's you that she wants? Exactly. Yeah, that's you. It's not her.
And he's like, she just knows. Does she though?
Yeah. So like you said, Jonathan does get good advice in this episode. Yeah. So he gives that advice to Riley, and then we see that he's shooting. He blindfolds. He's and everybody can see what's right in front of their face, and he blindfolds himself and is about to shoot at targets, and it's apples on top of initiative members' heads.
That's a little too much.
Yeah, crazy. So at the Bronze.
The Bronze is different looking.
Is it?
It's just a different feel. Big band instead of grunge rock.
Yes. And this is a funny little conversation that we open the scene on, where Anya and Xander's annoyed because Anya moaned Jonathan the night before.
Yep.
And she's trying to play it off like she did, and he's like, oh yeah, you did.
She's like, maybe I just was
Jonathan. Yeah, so Xander's not thrilled with that.
He's not having it.
Buffy and Riley are there, but they are kind of awkward with each other still.
Yep.
No. Jonathan comes up on stage and he starts singing a song that he dedicates to Riley and Buffy. Yeah, of course. And this is a little interesting tidbit. Do you remember the homecoming episode? Oh, no, wait, sorry. Prom. When Tucker Wells, the guy that trained the Hell Dogs to that actor is doing Jonathan's singing voice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. So that's who's singing Jonathan's song, his little Rat Pack song.
Okay. That he's dedicating to Buffy and Riley.
Yeah, and so they dance.
A tough time.
Yeah, so they do go out to the floor to dance. And also during this, Willow and Tara join the table.
So I was happy to see that they were together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Willow's finally including her in things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so she's now being included in the group, which is good. Buffy and Riley essentially make up. Yeah, when they're dancing,
talk without talking.
Yeah, and he's holding her, and she feels like things are better. Yeah. And I like when he starts playing the trumpet. Jonathan starts playing the trumpet, and Tara's like, he's gonna do something off of the new album.
God, yeah.
Oh my god.
And then Anya's like, let's go have sex now. And
yeah, everyone is turned on
Xander.
and Xander is too. He's like, yeah, let's go. So they take off.
Oh my God.
In the midst of this, Karen runs in, who is the fan that was stalking him.
Looking a little rough.
Runs in, she's been roughed up, and she's looking for help, obviously, because she's been attacked. So at Jonathan's, they go back to Jonathan's, and Karen's there, and they're having her describe the monster that she saw. And she says there was a symbol on its head.
Mm-hmm.
She draws it out, which is basically like a kind of how Tara described it, was a Greek letter, but not. It was a triangle with some
like
crossing lines through the middle.
Yeah. Yep.
And Jonathan really like poo-poos this.
Yeah.
And he says, "Oh,
it's just a monster.
Just a monster. They usually stay away from populated areas. Like, it's fine. Like, don't worry about it. I can handle it
solo.
And I'll just do it myself. No problem.
Don't worry about it."
But Buffy definitely picks up on this change.
She thinks it's a little weird.
Yeah, she's not sure about this. So I don't know where this next scene takes place.
I put question mark.
I put City Hall question mark because we never really find out why they're there. It just puts them. They could have had this. Well, maybe they couldn't have had it in the cave. I'm like, I don't know why we're here. But anyway, that's the setting for this conversation. So Adam is there looking through like footage and files and stuff, like kind of like a surveillance footage. And a vampire is telling Adam about Jonathan. And that there's something new in town, referring to this monster. That there's something new in town. And then talks about Jonathan, and Adam sees right through it that it's not reality, that it's not that it's a lie.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. He's just like, he says a lot, but he's like, basically said, everything he says isn't real. The world has changed, and like how it's a spell. And he basically says, I don't remember his wording, but he's like, I'm woke and you're not. Yeah, essentially. Yeah. Like, I am the most aware being there has ever been. So like, I'm surpassed this kind of like this spell. Yeah. Mere spell doesn't work on me. I'm not immortal. Yeah. Or immortal. Everything. He's a unique, right? Yeah. So this doesn't really, he doesn't fall into the net of this spell. Yeah. Yeah. But he says, but it will lead to chaos, and I'm like all for that. Like this magic is unstable, and it will like turn into chaos. So he's like, I'm just gonna sit back, relax, and enjoy the chaos. So at Jonathan, he's standing in front of the fire, with his smoking jacket on, looking into the fire. And then these like two Swedish twins are like, Jonathan, are you coming to bed? Oh, Jesus. So he's like, yeah, he takes his like jacket off, and we see that he has the same that mark on his back. Yes. So my thought was he was the monster when I saw that, but I was incorrect. That's a good guess, though. That would have been a good guess. Because so far we haven't seen them in the same place at the same time. So yeah. So on campus, Buffy, Tara, and Willow are walking, and they're talking about, Buffy's kind of talking about her concerns about Jonathan and this monster, that Jonathan seemed scared. Yeah. And I like how Willow and Tara were like, what? Yeah, no. Jonathan isn't scared of anything. Yeah. And, also, I like all these little changes that happen. Like, oh, remember when he gave you the class protector? Or no, when you gave him the class protector at prom? Yeah. I was like, wait, what? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so history has changed where Buffy gave Jonathan the class protector award. Right. I can't believe he took that from her. What a jerk. Yeah. Yeah. Come on, Jonathan. So Buffy, everyone's like, you're crazy. And she just can't shake that something's up. Right? And she does talk, and then Tara goes off on her own way, and Riley, she talks about how Riley and her are doing much better now. Yep. Like they're progressing through the issue. Mm-hmm. So I put student center question mark. I put dorms. I don't know. Yeah. Somewhere on campus. Yeah. Tara is attacked by that monster. Yeah. And she does like some magic. It looks like she's like basically the equivalent of like throwing dust in his face. So magic dust. Yeah, it's like cloud where it can see, so it can't see, and so she can get away. And she hides in the janitor's closet, so it's not able to get in there after her. So like we're assuming it's the next morning because that was at night. Buffy arrives to Tara's room, and Willow's already there. Obviously, she called Buffy over in a rush, and Tara's just like on the bed. Yeah. She's got like an injury, and she's like shaking and kind of like traumatized. Like traumatized, kind of like almost like in shock. Yeah. And apparently she was found in the janitor's closet an hour ago, and
was there all night, apparently hiding, which is really sad. But Tara, she does able to get out of Tara that it's the same symbol. So Buffy knows that the monster has attacked twice now.
And it was inside the building too, so it's not like it's...
Yeah, because Jonathan said we'd be fine, and Jonathan said it wouldn't stay by populated areas.
Exactly.
So
she's really starting to question him now.
Yeah, and Willow's like, well, Jonathan said we were fine. So this is a little bit of seed of doubt, I think, in Willow's mind.
Yeah.
That will make her to grow. So at Xander's, Buffy comes over to look at some of Xander's stuff, kind of, because I guess like Xander has like a very extensive Jonathan collection. And but he's not there. And Anya is.
And she's very unimpressed that Buffy came over.
Yeah, she doesn't know what to do, how to host anyone or invite anyone into her home or anything.
No,
she tries, though. She's like, please come in. She cannot mask that she doesn't want to do this. She's just feeling she has to do it. So she's looking at all of Xander's Jonathan stuff, like trading cards and of multiple football, basketball, like all these different things that Jonathan is the best at, every sport, which is odd. She's starting to like realize that this is odd. Anya is reading Jonathan's book, but stops long enough to talk to Buffy about alternative realities.
Oh, yeah.
And because, Anya was brought into this show during an alternate reality on The Wish. So, yeah, she starts talking about how it is possible for someone, because she obviously is a vegetarian demon, to wish the world to be different. And that could change the world. And Buffy's like, this seems odd. Because she keeps telling her, like, isn't it weird? Buffy's starting to think all these things are strange now.
Yeah. So
we go to Giles, and the whole group's there, not Jonathan. And Buffy's bringing up all this stuff to the group. Like, isn't it weird, X, Y, and Z? Isn't it weird, X, Y, and Z? That, for a couple of things she brings up, was that he started in the Matrix, but he never left town. So from this universe, Jonathan is the star of the Matrix.
Right.
And then he went to med school. He graduated from med school, but he's only 18 years old. Like, how did he do that? And they're like, time management, Buffy. Like, it's totally plausible. And she's like, whoa, all these things are starting to, like, seem really crazy.
She thinks he's manipulating the world.
Yeah. And then Xander says, we saw him, like, we know he killed the mayor. We smashed the bones of... Sorry. He smashed the bones of the master. He blew the mayor up. Like, all these things that
Buffy did. Yep.
Yeah, Jonathan now has the credit for those.
Yep.
And they're like, you're crazy. And Riley, we think, is kind of on board with everybody else. But then he says, Buffy, we need to, like, trust her instinct, basically, on this. Because we need to follow her lead. So now Buffy's kind of now starting to take a leader thing back.
Be herself.
Yeah. So she says to the group that she thinks Jonathan is ignoring evidence.
Yeah, that monster mark thing.
She asked Giles if he's got Jonathan's swimsuit calendar.
And he's like, no.
No.
Yes.
It was a gift.
It was a gift.
It was a gift. So he pulls it out underneath his it's hidden. Mm-hmm. And they see that on, like, July or whatever was swimsuit one, where they see the same mark on his back that we saw earlier. Jonathan arrives.
Suspect timing.
Yeah. And he says that they kind of are like, hey, what's going on? Like, you have to tell us what's going on with this mark that you have and the monster has. And he says, he makes to be fair, he does come up with a pretty quick cover story. He says that when he runs, he says, does have a history with this monster, and that when he runs into the monster, it, like, sucks energy from him, and it, like, makes him confused. Yeah. And he, like, gave himself that tattoo to remind him never to, like, take it,
to take it too lightly, basically.
Yeah.
To underestimate.
That's the word.
To underestimate the monster.
To underestimate it.
Yep. Yep. Which is,
yeah. Sure. Yeah. And they're like, okay.
That makes sense.
Okay. Buying this. But so Buffy says, like, then me and you, let's go after the monster. Me and you, Jonathan and Buffy are going to go after it. So they're on their way, and they run into Spike. And they ask him if he knows anything about this monster. He says he doesn't know anything. And Jonathan's like, okay. But then Buffy steps up and basically threatens him.
Yeah.
And says that, I know you only rely on butcher's blood now, and Jonathan can just call in a favor and they can cut off your supply. So, that would be pretty bad for you because that's the only way you're staying alive. So Spike cracks and says that he heard about some vampires being kicked out of a cave behind Brookside Park. So it must have been something pretty big to get what's the word? Evict. To evict these vampires from this cave. So at Giles, Riley is talking about, he's looking through the spell books. And he's like, wow, can you really just cast these spells and X, Y, and Z will happen? And Willow does say, it's not that simple. It does take concentration and stuff.
You can't just say, what is that? Libre Incendia?
Yeah, Xander says that, and then the book just catches on fire.
That was really funny. I like that scene.
He slams it shut, and I like when Giles says, Xander, don't speak Latin around the books, in front of the books. And then Willow finds the mark is part of an augmentation spell. So
dun, dun, dun.
She really does think that Buffy is this is leading into Buffy's theory that Jonathan has changed things.
And it created a monster.
Yeah. So it's he's the best of everything and to balance that, basically everyone's ideal, and to balance that is everyone's nightmare. So he brought this monster into being.
Yeah. Exactly.
To balance out all the good or the greatness that he's supposedly supposed to stand for. And so they said if the monster dies, then the spell will be broken.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they're like, okay, well, Jonathan wouldn't want Buffy to kill it, so can we trust him that he's not going to do something bad?
Yeah.
In the caves, Buffy and Jonathan come across this huge pit, and we think for a second that
he's gonna
push her in. That way she can't kill the monster.
I mean, he grabs her not grabs, but he goes to hold her, and I was just
no. He leads her away from there.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and then the monster attacks them.
Evil.
Yeah, and then the monster attacks. I mean, she has saved his life a bunch of times. I don't know. That's terrible. All right, so back at Giles' house, they're also talking about this, and they're like, wow, what's going to happen? Our whole life is going to change. And Giles says, it's probably only Jonathan's part in it that will change. He'll just go back to being whoever he was before, but most of our lives will stay the same.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they're like, can Buffy fight this monster alone? They're really concerned about her, going up alone, going up against things on her own, when she does that all the time in the real reality, right? But they're like, oh, can Buffy go against this monster by herself in the caves? So we're in the caves, and the three of them are fighting, and Jonathan realizes that Buffy needs to be able to kill the demon.
Exactly. Yeah.
So because he says you used to know what to do and all of this, so he kind of spurs her on, and as whoever's winning the fight, his behavior changes.
Yeah.
So when Buffy's winning, he gets scared, he becomes cowardly and hides, and when the demon's winning, he comes out and is brave, which I thought was interesting. So yeah, it changes, and then the demon has the upper hand for a minute, and looks like he might throw Buffy into that pit. Yeah. But Jonathan comes out and pushes the demon in.
And he almost goes with it.
Yeah, he topples in too, but Buffy grabs him and saves him.
Yeah.
And so he essentially ends the spell himself to save Buffy.
Yeah. So that was cool, I guess.
He made the right decision in the end.
Yeah. And as she was fighting, I feel like she was starting to remember herself.
Yeah, so she's like, oh yeah, this is good. It's all kind of coming back.
Yeah.
So at campus, everyone's sitting around, and they just can't believe that it happened. They can't believe that they thought he was so cool. And Xander is upset. He's really feeling it, the loss. And he just can't believe it. And we see Jonathan kind of mulling about in the distance. And so Buffy goes over there to talk to him.
Yeah.
So he does apologize for doing it.
Yeah.
And the thing that annoys me about this episode, one thing that annoys me about this episode, is that he says after the clock tower and the gun thing, so after Buffy saved him, he went into counseling. And, like, the only thing he learned was that he ran into another kid that had another troubled teen that had this spell. To, like, basically just cast a spell and get all this stuff for the easy way out, basically, of obtaining all of this stuff. All this fame and fortune and whatever, allure. And, he said he didn't tell me about the monster part. I didn't know that was going to happen. But I said, I'm really sorry. And, I liked that we were friends in this other reality. But Buffy does tell him, you can't just take the shortcuts. Like, you can't just, you have to put the work in to, like, get these type of things.
Yeah. It takes time, time and work.
Mm-hmm. And so he kind of says, I think I gave you similar advice about Riley, which was, like, good, it's true, and I think it does work for me, too. So
it's complicated, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. So he can't just quick fix everything in his life. Yeah. So in Riley's room, Buffy and Riley are, like, kissing or whatever. Yeah. And so it seems like they're, like, back on track, everything's good. Mm-hmm. And then she says, Jonathan.
That was really funny.
I read in, like, the, like, extra stuff or whatever that Jane Espenson said that, like, over the credits, Buffy was meant to say, like, I'm just kidding. But they just left it to say Jonathan, like, some residual spell. Okay, yeah, and that's how it ends. I think it's a funny ending. I will give it that. I think that was a good ending.
Yeah, that was cute.
Yeah, so that's Superstar. Quickly wrapping that up. So, my favorite quote was when Giles says, Xander, don't speak Latin in front of the books.
That's a good quote.
That's a classic Giles line. Like, that's a favorite of a lot of people. And then I put my favorite scene. I actually didn't really have a standout favorite scene. So I decided just to do the Buffy and Jonathan heart-to-heart that they had at the end.
That's fair.
I think that the one they had in the clock tower was much more
better,
poignant. Like, much better. But I had to pick something, so I just picked this one. I kind of wish... I was waiting, like... I wanted, when he's starting to walk away, that maybe she invited him over to sit with them or something. Mm-hmm.
Olive branch.
Or something. Like, because he's just alone again. No one's speaking to him.
Exactly.
Which part of is why he was driven to do all these things in the first place.
Yep.
So I would have liked something, or like, I'll see you around, or something like that. Mm-hmm. Instead of him just walking away and it just being, like, cut off. So that would have made me like this episode a little bit more. But that didn't happen. But the heart-to-heart, I'll say that.
Okay. My favorite line was when Buffy asks, so Giles, do you have a Jonathan swimsuit calendar? And Giles is like, no. Yes, it was a gift. And then my favorite...
I was gonna say, I also like the ones with Anya saying, like, if you want a world with just shrimp or no shrimp. Like, is you talking about the shrimp?
That's so weird.
So Anya.
And my favorite scene was actually the where they're looking at the spells. That was really funny.
Oh, yeah.
When Xander makes the book.
Yeah.
I'm alive with fire. Yeah, that's good. What was your steak rating? I'm so curious.
I actually upped it because I felt bad.
You don't have to feel bad.
I gave it a 3.8 out of 5.
Oh my god, that's so generous.
I had 3.5 initially.
That's still generous. Okay.
So I put, like, one of my little bullet points about it is that about what we've talked about. Jonathan learning nothing from therapy, nothing useful.
No. Yeah.
I mean, I guess he's upgraded from trying to hurt himself to doing a spell. So maybe if he keeps going, you can improve. But yeah, I feel like the lesson of this whole episode was lost in that moment. A couple ways. I feel like it was lost when Buffy didn't take the opportunity to help staunch some of the loneliness that brought Jonathan to this place in the first place. Yeah. Just trying to, like, have some compassion for him and what brought him there. And then also, like, I went to therapy and I just, again, I learned nothing. I took this easy way out with this kid, like, spell this kid had. So that was a little bit disappointing. I did like to see Jonathan back. I think he's, like, fairly interesting character. So it was nice that it had him back. And for somebody, like, I'm sure that was a great, like, week for Danny Strong. Like, being like a main character of an episode after having, like, just really small parts. Like, I bet that was really exciting. So I like that. That was good for him.
Okay. Yeah.
And yeah, I just said it's a palate cleanser, really. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes these palate cleansers are more relevant and interesting and enjoyable than others. And so, yeah.
Okay.
It is what it is.
I have a lot less to say than you do.
I try to put something.
I gave it a 3, which I thought was generous.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I really got out of it was when he gave Buffy and Riley advice. I thought that was nice and good, and it seemed to pivot them along a little bit, so that was good.
Mm-hmm.
And then the only other thing that I thought was interesting was when they had that meeting in the initiative when Jonathan comes in, and he said cutting off Adam's head was useless. He needs to be annihilated completely. Because I'm assuming that's actually true. So we learned more about Adam and how to, like, what's going to happen with him.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Woke Adam.
Next. Thank you, next. All right. So, I'm going to be honest. The next one's not the best episode either. But then we're getting that
better than this one.
Okay. And then then things start.
Okay.
The next one after that, it's a doozy, I would say. All right. But anyway, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Where the Wild Things Are is the next episode.
Okay.
And I feel like now we've kind of, like, started this, like, tradition of this question. So I feel like if it's relevant, if I can ask it, I have to ask it. What's Xander's new job? Xander's got another job.
Okay. What have we've done? Pizza delivery, right?
Yes. Construction.
Construction. We did the Power Bars pyramid scheme.
Hot dog on a stick.
I forgot about that.
Bartender.
Oh yeah, bartender. Oh my god. Okay.
He's got a new gig.
Cashier of some sort.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Cashier.
It's probably not that because they're coming up with creative things for him to do, but I guess I got no creativity.
So that wraps episode 17, Superstar. Again, you can find us on all major podcast apps and YouTube and Instagram with One Girl and All the World Pod. You can also email us at onegirlpod@gmail.com. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back in the new year with season 4, episode 18, Where the Wild Things Are. See you real soon.
Bye.